member, and I call the member for Canberra.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm really pleased to speak on this issue because Australians have reason to be concerned about the state of our nation and the state of Australian democracy, because this government has a complete disregard for both. Today, the Prime Minister announced major changes to the Australian Public Service out of nowhere. 4 departments axed and merged into others, and 5 departmental secretaries sacked. And, Deputy Speaker, they found out by email last night. These are leaders of our public service. These are people who've spent most of their lives serving our nation, working hard, working long hours and providing frank and fearless advice to both sides of government. And this is the sort of treatment they receive. Well, I, for one, would like to thank those people for their service of our nation and note that this is a disgraceful way for them to be treated. They had no opportunity to brief the Prime Minister on how this would affect, their departments. Now, I've worked in the public service and my father was a career public servant, and the professionalism that I see in him and that I saw in the people I worked with and the commitment to the best outcomes for our nation, they leave this government for dead. Those people going to work every day wanting to get the best outcomes for our environment, for delivering services to people, to get our economy right, to provide the advice that enables governments of both colours to deliver policy that improves our nation, to deliver services and to implement programs. But this is a government that's not into frank and fearless advice. They don't want it. They're not interested in sound policy advice, evidence or science. They're interested in ideological crusades. And I cannot see how these changes will not lead to job losses. It just seems when you go from 18 departments to 14, there will be job losses. Also, we all know that machinery of government changes are extremely disruptive to the public service, and this is going to cause huge problems. Right before Christmas, people in my electorate, going into Christmas worried about their jobs. Because this government has no respect for our public service, and Canberra bashing suits their agenda of cuts. It suits their interest to bash Canberra. And the other day we had the member for Goldstein with a perfect example when he said that Canberra is literally, the basis of the Canberra economy is literally government, which he defines as, and I quote, the raiding of taxpayers' hip pockets for the benefit of the few. Well, that's not how I see the Australian public service. It suits this Prime Minister to dismiss Canberra as a bubble and to dismiss issues as Canberra bubble issues whenever he doesn't want to talk about them. So for those who think cuts to the public service are bubble issues, I'd say how much of a Canberra bubble issue is ensuring pests don't get past customs and decimate farmers' crops? How much of a Canberra bubble issue is supporting our drought-affected farming communities? How much of a Canberra bubble issue is 55 million engaged tones on the Centrelink helpline for people trying to access services? And how much of a bubble issue is a year-long wait for a medically approved walker for a 3-year-old girl on the NDIS? These are really important issues, and these are what our public service is trying to work on. These secretaries have lost their jobs while the Minister for Emissions Reduction, who has admitted that he has falsified documents, remains in his. This is a government of double standards. And we saw this writ large this morning with unprecedented abuse of this parliament and this democracy when the government tried to ram through the latest version of their union-bashing Ensuring Integrity Bill without us being able to debate on it at all or even see the updated bill. Because, this is a government that doesn't want the scrutiny of this parliament. Each of us here was elected to represent the views of those in our electorates who elected us, and we were robbed of that opportunity today to voice those concerns about this bill that seeks to attack working people and the unions that represent them. This is a Prime Minister who thinks he is above question. He likes to talk about union thugs a lot, but who are the real thugs? Who are the people stealing wages? Who are the people forcing people to work in unsafe workplaces? He talks about the quiet Australians, when really what he wants to do is drown out any dissent. He demonises unions, he demonises protesters. They ignore the advice of scientists. Theirs is an agenda of division, to demonise anyone, who questions their agenda, which serves the few, not the many. Thank you.